There is no such thing as the lost 10 tribes of Israel.
There are no lost 10 tribes of Israel. That's what this person says in this video expedition Bible. He says that archaeology proves that when the kingdom of Israel fell, that all 12 tribes of Israel, a small remnant of them, came down and settled into Jerusalem. And he tries to prove it through one proof in archaeology. Now I'm going to show you some clips of this video, and we will go through his points one by one and refute each and every one of those and show you that, yes, there are the lost 10 tribes of Israel. Take a look at this clip.
And so now they invaded Israel. And at this time, Israel was a divided kingdom. There was the southern kingdom of Judah made up of 2 tribes, and the northern kingdom of Israel, which was made up of the 10 northern tribes. So after Assyria ended the nation of Aram, they attacked the northern kingdom of Israel. They systematically took out the fortified cities down to the capital of Samaria. They laid Samaria under siege, and eventually the king of Assyria captured Samaria and deported the Israelites to Assyria. And when that happened, the northern kingdom of Israel ceased to exist. But that does not mean that the northern 10 tribes cease to exist. Is there an event described in the Bible where the 12 tribes of Israel are preserved in a remnant that survives the Assyrian conquest? And the answer is clearly yes. God promises in Micah 2:12, I will surely gather all of you, Jacob. I will surely bring together the remnant of Israel. I will bring them together like sheep in a pen. The place will throng with people. And so God is promising that he will gather all of you, Jacob. How much would all of you, Jacob, include? Well, obviously it would include all 12 tribes of Israel. And he's going to bring them together like sheep in a pen.
All right, so in this first clip, he admits that the house of Israel got taken away to Assyria. He quoted it from the Bible. Now, we show you in our booklet, The United States and Britain in Prophecy, that there are successive waves of invasions of different Assyrian kings that came in and took the house of Israel away. The whole house of Israel between 734 BC to 669 BC, fulfilling Isaiah's 65-year prophecy. And he took the whole house of Israel away. And it plainly says here in 2 Kings, the 17th chapter, verse 18. It says that the Lord was very angry with Israel and removed them out of his sight. Now notice what it says here. It says, and there was none left but the tribe of Judah only. Only the kingdom of Judah was left. The whole house of Israel got taken away. But this person doesn't believe that. It says here in verse 20, the Lord rejected all of Israel, the seed of Israel, and afflicted them and delivered them into the hands of spoilers until he had cast them out of his sight. And then in verse 23 it says, until the Lord removed Israel out of his sight, as he has said by all his servants the prophets, so was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria unto this day. This is, of course, Ezra writing this. So right up in the days of Ezra, the house of Israel, the whole nation got taken away, and they were still in Assyria. In Jeremiah, the 7th chapter, verse 15, God says that he removed even the whole seed of Ephraim. And Ephraim was the leader tribe of Israel. It meant the whole nation. Why is it so hard for people to believe that God removed the entire nation of the house of Israel away into Assyria? This is what the Bible says, but no, not according to this person. This person says that a tiny remnant of all 12 tribes migrated down to Jerusalem, but nowhere does it say that in the Bible. The Bible plainly says that God removed the entire nation and removed them to Assyria. Now, quick question. You even said that Israel got deported to Assyria. Are you not the least are you at least not curious as to what happened to all these people, the vast majority? You even say a tiny little remnant of the 12 tribes went to Jerusalem. Are you not curious as to what happened to the vast majority of the Israelites that got taken away into Assyria? What do you think happened to them? They just poof, disappeared into thin air? Are you not at least curious as to what happened to these people? But no, not according to this person, not curious at all, doesn't care what happened to these people. Instead, he focuses in on this tiny little remnant that went down to Jerusalem. So here he quotes out of the book of Micah, in Micah the 2nd chapter, verse 12, and it says this. It says, I will surely assemble, O Jacob, all of you. I will surely gather the remnant of Israel and put them together as a sheep of Borza, as the flock in the midst of their fold, and they shall make a great noise by reason of the multitude of men. Didn't quote that part. Does that sound like a bunch of refugees going down to Jerusalem? It says here, they shall make a great noise by reason of the multitude of men. Here God is talking about all of Jacob that he will assemble, and they will make a great noise by reason of the multitude of men. Didn't quote that part. This is talking about a huge assembly of people, ladies and gentlemen. Yet this person is trying to tell you and me that a tiny remnant of the 12 tribes went down as refugees down into Jerusalem. Yet this prophecy says the complete opposite, that here we have a huge multitude of people. Then in verse 13, he didn't quote this part where it says, the beaker has come up before them. They have broken up and have passed through the gate and are gone out by it. Nowhere here does it say that this is Jerusalem. Nowhere here does it say that they went back to the promised land. It just says here that God's going to assemble them, a huge multitude of men, and they pass through the gate and are gone out by it. What gate is that? Well, they got taken away between the Black and the Caspian Sea, the Bible plainly says in 2 Kings, the 17th chapter, in the city of the Medes and so on. They got taken away into Assyria. And when you look at the Caucasus Mountains, it looks like a huge gate, a huge door of a gate that's opening, that is the only opening up into, through the Black and the Caspian Sea, into Europe. And this is what happened. God assembled all of Jacob, and they passed through the gate. They went up through the Black and the Caspian Sea. And you'll see, as it says here, and their king shall pass before them, and the eternal on the head of them. Their king, of course, is Jehovah God. In the prophecies of Isaiah, plainly says that I am your king, O Jacob. And you see in history, and you see the migrations of the Israelites, who are the Sumerians, the Celts, the Scythians, the Parthians. And you see, like God, like a shepherd, herding them through the Black and the Caspian Sea and taking them to their new appointed place, as it was prophesied, their new appointed place in their new homelands in Europe. This is what this prophecy is really telling us. Nothing. It says here nothing of Jerusalem. It says here nothing of the land of Palestine. Instead, it talks about it, and it says here nothing about a small little remnant of refugees going down into Jerusalem. Instead, it says here that there was a great noise, a multitude of men, and they passed through the gate, and God is leading them through that gate, through the Black and the Caspian Sea, and herding them up into their new appointed lands, into Europe, as other prophecies say. Like you look at the prophecies of Isaiah, and it plainly says that Israel is in the islands of the sea, in the south islands of the sea, in the northern islands, north and west. That's what this scripture is really telling us. Now, he goes through this one proof that he has, so-called proof, to try and prove to people that the lost 10 tribes went down to Jerusalem. He tries to prove it through archaeology. Take a look at this clip.
So beginning in 1969, the Israeli archaeologist Naaman Avigad began excavating the Western Hill, and he found that occupation on the Western Hill began at the time of the Assyrian conquest. He found all these makeshift houses that had been built in haste, that were squeezed together like what you see in a refugee camp, and it was estimated that when the Assyrians attacked the northern kingdom of Israel, that the population of Jerusalem grew by at least 15 times. And so the city of Jerusalem expanded greatly. So who were all these people? Where did they come from? Obviously, they were refugees that were fleeing the destruction of the northern kingdom from the northern 10 tribes who were taking refuge in Jerusalem. Once the king of Jerusalem at the time, Hezekiah, realizes that it's inevitable that the Assyrians are going to attack Judah and Jerusalem, it says he worked hard repairing all the broken sections of the wall and building towers on it. And then it says that he built a wall outside of that one to take the western hill into the city of Jerusalem and to protect these refugees. So we have in place what God has promised in Micah 2:12. God has gathered all of you, Jacob, all 12 tribes, into the remnant of Israel inside the walls of Jerusalem. And just in time, because in 701 BC, the Assyrian king Sennacherib invades Judah. And we have both the biblical record and the Assyrian record for what happens in the invasion of Judah. Sennacherib's palace was excavated in Nineveh, and his records were found. So Sennacherib himself says, "As to Hezekiah the Jew, he did not submit to my yoke. I laid siege to 46 of his strong cities and conquered them." And Isaiah is in agreement with this. The way Isaiah puts it is Sennacherib, king of Assyria, attacked all the fortified cities of Judah and captured them. And then Isaiah goes on to describe Jerusalem as a city under siege. Micah chapter 5, verse 1, Micah says, "For a siege is laid against us." So think of how dramatic this event is. Here we have the people of God, Israel. Assyria, who ends nations, has attacked the northern kingdom of Israel and ended that nation, has invaded Judah and destroyed every single fortified city down to Jerusalem, and now laid Jerusalem under siege. Surrounding the walls of Jerusalem is the most powerful army on earth, which, by the way, they were undefeated at this point. Every city they had attacked, they had captured. And now inside the besieged city of Jerusalem, inside the walls, God has faithfully gathered the remnant of Israel, all of you, Jacob, from all 12 tribes. And now the question is will the Assyrians bust through the wall of Jerusalem and make God's chosen people extinct, or will God deliver his people? So it says in 2 Kings chapter 19 that night the angel of the Lord went out and put to death 185,000 in the Assyrian camp. When the people got up the next morning, there were all the dead bodies. So Sennacherib, king of Assyria, broke camp and withdrew. He returned to Nineveh and stayed there. And so God saves his people, his remnant, and God delivers Jerusalem from the Assyrians. Now, if God had not delivered Jerusalem, there would be no such thing as Jews today. There is no such thing as the lost 10 tribes of Israel.
All right, so he basically says that archaeology shows that when the kingdom of Israel fell, that there was all of a sudden an explosion of the population in Jerusalem. And he basically says that these were the refugees of all 12 tribes coming from the northern kingdom down to the southern kingdom of Judah, and of course quotes that archaeologist. But this paper, talking about that archaeological find by Scott Isham, those other casualties of wars, refugees, and resettlements in Iron to Judah, he plainly says this. It says here, the meager amount of evidence for northern Israelite culture found in Judah and Jerusalem is troubling if one contends, as Finkelstein does, that a torrent of refugees entered the region. It would seem intuitive to believe, with such a mass number of migrants, a greater amount of items that culturally links them to the area they inhabited would be found, but they did not. That's one problem. Another problem, they're not really sure of the chronology. They're really not sure if this outer wall that was built, they're not sure if it was 701 BC. It could be earlier, it could be later. They're not sure, and they don't have access to the site. Even this day, they don't really have access to the site. So they're not sure about the date of the walls. And another problem, the tombs that they have found, they really can't compare what they found in Jerusalem to Samaria, because the evidence in Samaria, they lack evidence, and they can't really compare the two because they lack evidence in the tombs in Samaria. So there's another problem. But who were these refugees? There was a population explosion in Jerusalem during that time, but who were these refugees? Well, it says here on page 48 of the same paper, it says, however, with an Assyrian presence so close to Judah, and Jerusalem's growth from the northern refugees, and it's not talking about northern Israel, but northern Judah, and with its public works underway to protect the city, it only seems logical that settlers on the outskirts of Jerusalem took shelter in Jerusalem prior to 701 BCE. It also seems undeniable that after 701 BCE, when Sennacherib overthrew Lachish, and that's in southern Judah, that people were seeking protection, and Jerusalem had what they were looking for, page 48. So if these were refugees, and they're not even sure about that, but if they were refugees, and most likely they were, because in 2 Kings 18, verse 13, it says, now in the 14th year of King Hezekiah, did Sennacherib, king of Assyria, come up against all the fenced cities of Judah and took them. So if they were refugees, these are refugees from the kingdom of Judah, not the house of Israel, because the house of Israel, God says, got taken away, even the whole seed of Ephraim, and cast them out of their sight. And they were in Assyria at that time. So if these were refugees from the kingdom of Judah and not the kingdom of Israel. So the evidence is lacking that these are the northern Israelites that migrated from the northern kingdom down to Jerusalem. Instead, most likely, these were people from the cities of Judah, the kingdom of Judah. Because of Sennacherib, they came to Jerusalem seeking refuge, is the most likely scenario. And that God says that he took the whole house of Israel away and took them into Assyria. Then Micah 2 shows that they migrated up into Europe, into their new homelands. And the Bible plainly says in Matthew 10, verse 5 and 6, and Matthew 15:24, Jesus says, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. They are lost. And Ezekiel 34:16 plainly says the same thing. They are lost. So to try and prove that all 12 tribes are the Jews today is a very large biblical misconception.